number of different challenges. First of all, you find that in many of our countries, we don't have a significant amount of industrialization. So you tend to find that the green hydrogen projects or the derivatives of green hydrogen, like green ammonia, are being used for projects for export. And in order to export, green hydrogen is a very delicate material to handle, or even green ammonia. So you need the infrastructure, you need the port facilities, and then you also need the shipping and all that infrastructure. So many of these African countries are having to start from scratch. So you talk about project on project risk. You have to develop the green electricity, the green electrons, whether it's from wind or solar, and then you have to, convert that into hydrogen. You need your electrolysis equipment, which they don't have the technology to manufacture, and then you have to take that, to a port, even if it's fertilizer. So there's several projects within one project. The fortunate thing about South Africa is there is an industrial base, so you're already producing cars here. You can have green aluminum. The agriculture sector is quite significant. You can have green fertilizer. So there's the opportunity for domestic use of the hydrogen. So that's the overall scenario. And then you have the issue of funding, which is also quite difficult to get the long-term patient capital. So we need to mobilize more domestic savings. Otherwise, you have to rely on funding coming from outside, which isn't always available, especially given the geopolitical environment in which we live. And lastly, there's the regulatory aspect, because unless you have the commercial imperative, businesses are not going to invest in green hydrogen. So in Europe, for instance, you have emissions trading markets, which curtail the emissions from polluting industries. And that forces them to want to buy, green fertilizer or green metals for their industrial processes. But without that commercial incentive, they'll just continue to do what they've always done, which is rely more on the government needs to send a very clear thing, because political sponsorship, political will and alignment needs to be there. There are governments that are looking at green hydrogen as a bridge to industrialization. So Namibia has a lot of land. They have the potential to be a large player. And government has to provide the permits. They have to provide tax incentives. There's so many other incentives that government needs to be ready, and you have to build local content, you have to build the skills, and you have to introduce regulations that will attract capital. Capital is not sentimental, and it will follow the path of least resistance. So if the governments do not put the enabling environment in place, it's not going to happen. But the encouraging thing, you have countries like Kenya who have geothermal energy, which is quite cheap. And so they are building an energy park next to the geothermal facilities. And that offers, potential. Egypt has abundant renewable energy, and they are doing some very large solar parks. They've signed many MOUs for green hydrogen, so there's potential there. Angola has excess generation capacity in the north. So again, green hydrogen potential. So if we get our acts together, it's not impossible. I think it's perfectly doable, but it needs our countries to work together, and we have to pool our savings, domestic savings, because you can't just bring in or rely on outside investment. We also have to mobilize investment from within.